Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani kleklas vana ve Africa. It is Friday and it's almost the weekend. Welcome to Africa. Good morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories. On today's show, the African Union mission slams Tanzania's elections as undemocratic, while CHADEMA's deputy leader faces terrorism charges. Nigeria pushes back against a U.S. religious freedom designation, and China condemns American military threats. In South Africa, an investigation unfolds into 17 citizens trapped in Ukraine's Donbas region. Business and Innovation highlights feature Shell Namibia country chair Eduardo Rodriguez discussing milestones and sustainability. Economic segments cover Johann Rupert's $800 million loss after an EU fine and Tanzania's costly internet blackout. Watch us on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, ntvafrika.my.na, and NTV Africa on YouTube. That's Africa with a K. My name is Ashwin Betty. Top story shortly.
Life is unpredictable and one needs to be protected against any eventuality. Get Santam legal access from as little as $50 Namibian a month for when you find yourself in need of legal representation due to civil cases, criminal prosecution, and family matters such as divorce, child maintenance, and custody. It also covers labor disputes, disciplinary hearings, and unfair dismissal or retrenchment. With Santam Legal Access, you'll receive free legal advice on almost every legal aspect, whether the specific matter is covered by your policy or not. For true peace of mind and legal protection when you need it most, call us on 061 292 8000. Santam. This is freedom.
In a world where politicians promise the moon and deliver potholes, where democracy sometimes arrives in camouflage and ballots often look like formalities, one show dares to laugh with Africa, at Africa, and sometimes for Africa. This is Second Take, your weekly dose of political satire with an African soul and a global edge. From coups disguised as press briefings to ministers moonwalking past accountability, we serve the real news with sharper writing. Each week we bring you the TikTok of the week because sometimes the revolution is vertical, and the heartwarming moment of the week to remind us that not everything is burning. We also sit down with the bold, the brilliant, and the brave, voices that question power, stir thought, and spark laughter. Because when the headlines are wild, the leaders are louder, and the truth is lost in translation, we all need a second take. Let's get into Africa. Good morning. Tanzania's recent general election has been declared inconsistent with democratic principles by the African Union's Observer Mission. The AU stated that the October 29 vote failed to meet international obligations for credible elections. Observers documented ballot stuffing, voters receiving multiple papers, and the absence of political party agents during counting. Some observers were even removed from polling stations. Despite these findings, the government maintains that the election was fair and transparent. President Samia Suluhu Hassan declared the winner with 98% of the vote, was sworn in on Monday. Her main opponents had been excluded from the race, prompting widespread protests and deadly clashes. Tanzania's opposition party CHADEMA reported hundreds of deaths, while the Tanganyika Law Society estimated fatalities to exceed 1,000. The government has dismissed these figures as exaggerated. The AU urged Tanzania to prioritize electoral and political reforms to address long-standing systemic weaknesses. It said the 2025 elections did not comply with AU principles, normative frameworks, and other international standards for democratic elections, marking one of its strongest rebukes of a member state's vote in recent years. Staying with Tanzania, John Heche, deputy leader of Tanzania's main opposition party CHADEMA, has been charged with terrorism 2 weeks after his arrest ahead of the country's contentious general election. His lawyer, Hekima Mwasipu, said Heche was being held in Dar es Salaam but has not yet appeared in court. The government has not commented. Heche's arrest came before an election denounced by the opposition as fraudulent and marred by deadly protests. President Samia Suluhu Hassan was sworn in, and as we spoke about, however, this was during accusations of suppression. CHADEMA's chairman Tundu Lissu remains in detention on treason charges. Observers from both the AU and SADC declared the vote failed to meet democratic standards. Reports from rights groups cited torture, disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. Opposition figures, as I said, claimed hundreds of deaths occurred, while the government dismissed the numbers as exaggerated. During her inauguration, Hassan acknowledged casualties and property damage, but downplayed foreign involvement. Amnesty International had earlier described the pre-election atmosphere as a wave of terror. Nigeria's government has rejected its designation by the United States as a violator of religious freedom, describing the claim as founded on faulty data and misinformation. The announcement followed U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to restore Nigeria to the list of countries accused of restricting religious liberty. Trump also warned of possible swift military action if Nigeria failed to stop the killing of Christians. Information Minister Mohammed Idris condemned the move, saying it misrepresented Nigeria's security complexities and unfairly portrayed the government's efforts. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, insisted the country faced terrorism rather than religious persecution. Idris said President Bola Tinubu's administration had made significant progress against terrorism, citing the deaths of 13,500 militants, the arrest of 17,000 suspects, and the rescue of over 11,200 hostages. He emphasized that terrorism affects Christians and Muslims alike and reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to eliminating extremism through both military and diplomatic cooperation. The government said it remains open to working with the United States while defending Nigeria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk about China's response to the U.S. threatening Nigeria with military action.
This week's decisions, today's debates, tomorrow's consequences. The agenda puts the spotlight on Namibia's most pressing issues and the people driving them. From headline makers to groundbreakers, we bring you voices and perspectives at the center of the national conversation. One story, one interview, the depth you'll not find anywhere else. That is the agenda.
China has criticized U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to launch military operations against Nigeria over alleged attacks on Christians. Beijing's foreign ministry said it opposed any interference in the internal affairs of other nations under the guise of religion or human rights. It reaffirmed support for Nigeria's right to pursue its own developmental path. Trump had accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians from Islamist militants and claimed Christianity was facing an existential threat from jihadist groups including Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa. China's statement said it opposed the frequent use of sanctions and military threats. Amnesty International has reported that attacks in northeast Nigeria are not solely religiously motivated, as Muslims are also among the victims. According to U.S. statistics, Christians make up about 46% of Nigeria's population. The diplomatic exchange underscores rising tensions as global powers position themselves in Africa amid growing concerns over human rights, counter-terrorism, and external influence. South Africa's government has confirmed it is investigating distress calls from 17 citizens trapped in Ukraine's Donbas region after joining mercenary groups in the Russia-Ukraine war. The men, aged between 20 and 39, were reportedly recruited under false promises of lucrative contracts. Presidential spokesman Vincent Magwenya said most of the men were from KwaZulu-Natal, with one from the Eastern Cape. He said the government was working through diplomatic channels to secure their return and condemned the exploitation of vulnerable young South Africans. Working as a mercenary or serving a foreign military without authorization is illegal under South African law. President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered a full investigation into the recruitment networks involved. Analysts say high youth unemployment, now exceeding 30%, makes young South Africans easy targets. The case comes amid wider reports of Russia-linked groups recruiting Africans for combat or industrial work. A BBC investigation found that over 1,000 women from Africa and South Asia had been taken to Russia's Alabuga zone to produce drones. And that was the story that we highlighted yesterday. You're still with Africa. Good morning. After the break, we've got a special excerpt from an interview for you. In studio for the evening review was Shell Namibia Upstream Country Chair Eduardo Rodriguez, and this was their first ever TV interview in Namibia. See you soon. We are bringing to you In the Mix Africa, broadening our perspective, focusing on African players playing in Europe, playing in Africa, the inner workings of their craft, every single little thing. And also, very importantly, tasting African food with Patty. Are you ready for that?
Of course, we're going to broaden up our taste palettes and we're going to take it to the whole of Africa. We're not just going to stick here in Namibia. Of course, it's important to also appreciate Namibian culture and food, but we're going to broaden it up, like you say, and we're going to try everything.
That's right. So join us as we take you beyond borders for the love of sport with In the Mix Africa.
Do you like traveling?
Do you like to experience new places?
Well, then you should tune into On the Rock, where we explore enjoy establishments all over Namibia and South Africa. Great food, great fun, and so much more. So be sure to mark your calendar as we explore the beautiful landscapes of Namibia at the various enjoy establishments.
And where we also get to go on game drives, different activities, and meet the awesome staff of the different establishments.
We will see you there. Watch On the Rocks every Monday at 9 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GOTV channel 25.
Shell Namibia Upstream Country Chair Eduardo Rodriguez, in the company's first ever TV interview in Namibia on the Evening Review, discussed innovation, sustainability, and the company's key milestones in the country. Representing Shell Upstream in their very first TV interview in Namibia is Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez, who is the country chair for Shell Namibia Upstream BV. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, thank you, Ashwin. Pleasure to be here.
It's wonderful. So before we get into talking about Shell Upstream, how have you been finding Namibia?
Oh, what's not to like about Namibia? Tell me. So it's been great. I've been a little bit over a year here, and my team is wonderful. The reception that I've gotten by the Namibians has been wonderful. The interactions with the government are productive, are engaging. So really happy to be here, and of course, coming from rainy countries, cannot say I love the sun.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so let's get into it. Can you give us just an overview of Shell Upstream's operations in Namibia?
Sure. Shell has quite a long history in Namibia. Believe it or not, we were also involved in the Kudu field back then, right? But I think the return of Shell Upstream came in 2014, and we were, I think, one of the main international oil companies, IOCs, that came to Namibia to explore. So it's been a very interesting journey, and we were the ones who did that first well, who made that first discovery, the Graph discovery, early 2022. Since then, we have drilled 9 wells, of which 7 have been exploration wells, 3 have been appraisals. We have done 2 well tests, and we hope to be drilling next year as well. So it's been a very interesting journey. If you think about the magnitude of drilling 9 wells in a little bit over 2 years, that's quite a daunting task. And clearly, that's not done alone. It's done with the cooperation of everybody, the Namibian government, of the Port Authority, of all the complicated logistics that involve this, but we were able to pull it through, and clearly Namibia is open for business. So
without a doubt, there was so much excitement from that initial discovery, and not just Namibia, Africa, and in many ways it made the entire world pay attention with regards to Namibia and where it's going in the future. You have mentioned a couple of the milestones, but are there any other key milestones that you're willing to talk about with regards to Shell achieving them within Namibia's energy sector?
Well, Namibia, it's what we call a frontier basin, right? And we're talking about especially the Orange Basin, because there's still more with untapped potential, right? But in terms of Shell, I think it has been publicly announced. We are analyzing the data that we acquired with these wells. And together with our joint venture partners, we're trying to understand what is the next step, which we hopefully be drilling again next year. And this is what the nature of the business is. We have to have clear that we're in an exploration phase, right? Which is acquiring information, understanding the surface, and trying to understand, what potential you can find on commercial pathways that are that will satisfy the investment hurdles that are required by the group.
Yes. And I mean, in a business such as yours, being meticulous goes hand in hand. You're the only group of people where people should not really ask, why are you taking your time? Because every step is important, including the exploration phase, which you're speaking of right now. But I do have to ask, how is Shell integrating innovation and sustainability in its upstream activities?
Well, there's a lot of technology going on in the type of exploration that we're doing in Namibia. So Shell has extensive experience in ultra deep water exploration and production. So we're bringing all of our capabilities and trying to apply them to the knowledge that is required in Namibia. You have to think that what we're talking about is we have drilled about 200 kilometers offshore the coast of Namibia, 700 kilometers away from the shore base, which is Walvis Bay, in very complicated mid-ocean conditions. You have a time of the year that the waves are quite rough. On top of that, you have water depths that range from 3,000 to 2,000, which is very deep waters, and from there you have to go 3 kilometers down. So it has a lot of technology in order to do that in a responsible way.
Yes.
Because you have to do all that with all the highest safety requirements and obviously environmental, to make sure that everything is done in a proper and sustainable manner. So that requires a lot of know-how and technology that we think that a company like Shell has the availability to do it. I think if you look as well in Namibia has done a wonderful job in trying to put the right conditions of investment, because not only Shell and Total did the first discoveries, but you look at today and you have pretty much all the international oil companies, the majors, companies that can do this type of complex developments in the country. You have all of them in Namibia. So that's something that I think is worth recognizing, that Namibia has put the right conditions to attract the right investors, and we must continue with that pace, so that at the end, hopefully, the discoveries that have been achieved by the different companies end up in at the end goal, which is producing oil.
Yes, indeed.
Life is unpredictable, and one needs to be protected against any eventuality. Get Santam legal access from as little as 50 Namibian dollars a month for when you find yourself in need of legal representation due to civil cases, criminal prosecution, and family matters such as divorce, child maintenance, and custody. It also covers labor disputes, disciplinary hearings, and unfair dismissal or retrenchment. With Santam Legal Access, you'll receive free legal advice on almost every legal aspect, whether the specific matter is covered by your policy or not. For true peace of mind and legal protection when you need it most, call us on 061 292 8000. Santam. This is freedom.
South African billionaire Johann Rupert's wealth has fallen by about 800 million following a drop in shares of his luxury group Richemont. The decline followed a 20 million euro antitrust fine from the European Union targeting Richemont's French fashion label Chloé for competition law violations. Rupert's net worth dropped from 18.5 billion to 17.7 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. He remains South Africa's richest individual and Africa's second wealthiest person after Aliko Dangote. Richemont, which owns brands such as Cartier, Montblanc, and Van Cleef and Arpels, said it has strengthened compliance measures. Analysts say the fine has renewed scrutiny of Rupert's dominant control of Richemont through a dual-class share structure, giving him 51% voting power. The luxury sector is facing additional headwinds from weaker demand in China, the US, and South Africa, compounded by trade barriers. Despite the setback, Richemont's portfolio of more than 20 iconic brands continues to anchor its global position, maintaining the group's long-term stability amid shifting market conditions. Tanzania's economy has lost an estimated $238 million after a week-long internet shutdown between October 29 and November 3, according to data from the NetBlock's cost of shutdown tool. The blackout disrupted trade, mobile payments, and digital services just days before the country's general election. Advocacy groups, including Paradigm Initiative, condemned the outage as a violation of human and economic rights. Tanzania has also blocked X since May 2025, costing an additional $165.8 million in lost productivity. Analysts warn that such restrictions are becoming a recurring feature of election periods across Africa, eroding investor confidence and digital transformation. The NetBlock's report highlights the broader economic risks of censorship, estimating nearly $1 million in daily losses. Paradigm Initiative said the move violated freedom of expression and development rights enshrined in the African Charter. Executive Director Gbenga Sasan warned that repeated shutdowns undermine trust and opportunity, stating that connectivity is the foundation of modern economies. Authorities have not explained the disruption, but critics link it to political control efforts. Those have been our top stories. Those have been all our stories on Africa. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, ntvafrika.my.na, and NTV Africa on YouTube. That's Africa with a K. We return next week, starting on Monday, with the Zambia report delivered by Mike Situla as he gives us the latest updates from that nation. And of course, we'll still be making sure that we bring you the top headlines from broader Africa. As I said before, the weekend is upon us. Do enjoy it safely, and we'll see each other after Sunday. Swela Shakanaka.